Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Here we go. Let me post that. Pin. Let me check my people. How you guys doing? What's going on? All right. This is today's edition of Say Word. We have a special guest to help educate us at first. My guru has been a ghostwriter. Well, he got credit in the credits for BT specials. But Michael is amazing, y'all. And if you don't read his pieces on the route, you're missing out. So today, Michael has some things to say about Tim Scott, who I actually just talked not so nicely about in an article. But you said some things today about, I'm going to move this over a little bit. Oh, Jesus, hold on. You said some things about him today that were like truth juice in a Twitter thread. Y'all need to check out Michael's Twitter thread. But yeah, so I want you to tell us a little bit about what led you to be so complimentary about Tim Scott. And also give us a little bit of background on Defund the Police. Because there's a lot of people out here arguing, Michael, including me, just last week, without all the facts. It's a dangerous place to be. You got to have some receipts.
Yeah. So,
hi, brother.
I felt like first of all, like I probably feel the same way you do about Tim Scott. Like he's not one of my favorite people or politicians, but a few years ago, right? So maybe 2-3 years ago, when during Colin Kaepernick's first full season out of the NFL,
Yeah.
I did a series of stories every week for Monday Night Football on Why We Kneel. So I would take the city that the game was in and show how that city's police treat black people, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things that I found out was, just doing the series was that we don't know how many how many people police kill every year. Right? There's no way to find out. No one knows.
Yeah.
Right? And that's because police don't have to report to anybody when they kill someone, right? Like if you died from food poisoning, you have to report that to the FDA. If you die in a car crash, the National Highway Transportation Board knows it, right? But we don't even know how many people police kill every year, which is crazy. And it's because the NRA and Republicans don't want people to know. So,
and Michael, some Democrats, because that police union is fierce. That FOP has campaign donations, and we be forgetting about that sometimes.
Right. Well, that's one of the things I was about to get to.
Oh, okay.
None of those people are as powerful as the police union. Right. So police unions, like we always think of them when we see them as like these Republican, conservative controlled bodies, but they're really like all unions are really strong Democratic donors.
Yeah.
The Democrats really bow down to unions, and one of the ways that the Democratic Party fails us is that they concede to police unions. And most of the time, police unions are in larger cities, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which are controlled by Democratic politicians.
Right.
So in that series, I ended it, and I continued doing it every year, right? So I got with a guy who runs a site called Fatal Encounters. And so every year at the beginning of the year, we try to figure out exactly how many people died the previous year from police brutality. And you wouldn't believe how hard it is to find out, right?
Yeah.
Like, because one of the things is, like take the Washington Post, for instance. We use them as a source. People use them as a source, like a definitive source. But people don't realize that the Washington Post database only counts people who were shot and killed by an on-duty police officer. So like Botham Jean, for instance, Amber Geiger was off duty, so he's not in that database.
Yeah.
Sandra Bland is not in that database. George Floyd is not in that database. Eric Garner is not in that database, right? Because they were choked, because they died in police custody. But if they aren't shot and killed, they're not in that Washington Post database. And you would be surprised at how many people die at the hands of police who aren't just shot and killed. They're tasered to death. They're
Yes.
choked to death. Like a lot of, this is crazy, right? Besides shooting, one of the ways people die a lot at the hands of police is the category is called fell from a height, where they just like fell off a building or a bridge. Like it is crazy.
What?
How many
I
people?
never knew that.
Right. Car crashes and fell from a height
Oh
are
my
two
God.
are two of the ways a lot of people die from police brutality, and we don't know it. Like you could be tussling with somebody on the side of a bridge,
Yeah.
or they could taser somebody who's on the side of a building, and
Yeah.
they fall from a height.
Do you know how many people, I know this isn't the point, but I'm just curious. Do you know how many people or like how many instances of this you've come across?
Oh, it's hundreds every year.
You're kidding, Michael.
Yeah, it's hundreds every year.
Oh my God.
So, and so these are like some of the ways that we don't know how many people are killed by the police. A lot of people, for instance, run from the police when they aren't guilty of anything, and there are people who die of a heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't know, like, should we count that as a police death, or people who swallow drugs and have an overdose when the police are searching them and it's their drugs, they're not drug dealers or anything? Should that count? So it's really no way to definitively know, but we try to come up with the best guess every year, right?
Right.
But when I was searching, I discovered that since 2015, Tim Scott had been trying to get police agencies to count how many people were killed.
Right.
So after the death of Walter Scott in 2015, remember he was in North Charleston, South Carolina.
Yes.
Michael Slager, a cop, shot him in the back as he tried to run away, and then lied on the police report and said like they died in the tussle, which is another thing that I want to also point out. How often, almost every time, that police lied on police reports.
Like, what? Like consistently, like all the time.
And which is why, like, I get an update on like who police have killed from Google News every day, right? But you can never trust it because those news reports come from the police reports, and the police reports always lie, right? Mm-hmm. Just take George Floyd for instance, right? They said he died at the hospital after struggling.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did.
Right? And that wasn't the story. The same thing with Breonna Taylor. They said they returned fire and killed her after she shot at them.
Let me give you one more, Michael. Where I'm from, in Seattle, Washington, there's a suburb called Tacoma, Washington. Mm-hmm. Manuel Ellis, who was just killed, I believe it was in March, in Tacoma, Washington, had just finished playing the drums at his church revival, was up talking to his landlord and his wife, and then he was going to go get a snack. On his way to going to get a snack, they claimed that this black man was irate and crazy and picked up a police officer and slammed them to the ground. Meanwhile, there's footage. Footage. The man never touched the officer in that way. They were on top of this dude from the outset. And that's the thing, like, if we don't have video proof or some type of camera, some type of physical evidence of the interaction, they were believed every time. And that report was from a lie from the top to the bottom, like every time.
Right. Remember in the Laquan McDonald case in Chicago, somehow all 16 police officers who were present told the same lie on their police report, right?
Yeah.
We never talk about that and how those police officers are never punished. But that's one of the things that these unions negotiate. They can't be punished simply for lying on a police report. Mm-hmm. Well, the way this relates to this is like police officers and police departments, they won't release the footage until much later, right? So by the time you read a report and say, oh, this guy was shooting at police with a gun. Oh, that was probably justified. And then 3 months later, you'll find out, oh, there was never a gun. Like, they never recovered a gun. There was never a gun. And you will only know it from the footage, but the outrage has gone down. And that's actually their tactic.
Yeah.
So what Tim Scott wanted to do was he wanted to force every police agency to report every time they take out their weapon and point it at somebody, right? Whether they shot them, whether they killed them. And it's an entirely different thing, because we also don't know how many people police shoot. Like, we always talk about police killings, but what about the people who don't die?
Yeah.
Like, what about people like Leon Ford in Pittsburgh, who was just paralyzed for life?
Yeah.
You know? Like,
yes.
We don't talk about them. Like, just because you don't die don't mean there isn't a case of police brutality or that they didn't try to kill you. So Tim Scott wanted to have the name, age, sex, race of the officer, name, age, race, sex of the person who they shot or killed, what type of weapon they used, a description of the incident, where it took place. And he wanted the federal government to require agencies to do this. Now the interesting part is the way he was going to enforce it, right? Because there was going to be pushback. What he wanted to do was tell the agencies, well, you just won't get federal funds if you don't comply with our demands to report these incidents. Which is defunding the police, right?
Yes.
Like, the definition of defund is to withdraw funds or withdraw funding from a place.
Yes.
So even back as far as 2015, Tim Scott, the only Republican who was pushing this issue, knew how to fix it. Like, you got to defund police, right? And it seemed like a radical idea when you just say the word defund. But we defund a lot of stuff because we know it's obsolete. Like, remember when we used to have printed food stamps? And then we just stopped printing them because it was a dumb way when we have debit cards, right?
Yeah.
So, remember when they used to send out, and this just stopped like a few years ago, when they used to send out a tax booklet with your tax forms every year, and you would just fill out your income taxes in the booklet. And they don't do that anymore. You just go online and do it.
Yeah.
Because it's obsolete. Remember when we had a government agency that enforced prohibition, and then we said it's obsolete because we sell liquor now, and we defunded it. We used to have a war department. It doesn't mean that we stopped going to war. Just like defund the police don't mean we stopped enforcing the law. The War Department was obsolete. We built a National Defense Agency, and we just stopped the War Department. So the idea of defund the police is not just like, let's just end policing altogether. But, and here's the important part about the whole argument, right?
Yeah.
What people also don't realize is when you look at the statistics, and I also have to give people a caveat, like, I am a reporter and a journalist, but I am at the heart an economist. I have a master's degree in macroeconomics. So I look at numbers to do.
In other words, he's smart as hell, y'all. That's what that means.
So I say that to say this. One of the craziest things that people never talk about is that we know policing doesn't work, right? So it
don't work for a lot of us. That's definitely the truth.
No, but it doesn't stop crime, right? For the past 15 years, crime in the U.S. has steadily gone down, and the number of police have gone up, right? So we know more police don't equal less crime.
That's
because
right.
It was going down before we started increasing police, right?
Yeah.
But we just keep pushing money into the police force. Just think about how many times you've ever heard the police were on the scene and stopped the crime. Police don't stop crime. 47% of every crime in America goes unsolved. So when we see
47%,
47% of every crime goes unsolved.
What are they doing? So they don't protect and serve us. They shoot to kill us. They not fighting crime because 47% of it goes unsolved. They be blaming people that didn't do the crime.
Right.
What they doing, Michael?
And of that 47%, 80% of those crimes, they know who the perpetrator was when the person reports it. Like if somebody,
Yeah.
commits a crime against you, like a robbery or something like that, and you say, I know who did it, you tell the police, they go pick the person up. They're credited with solving the crime, but they didn't really solve it. You just told them who the person was. But police don't really like go and track down clues like we see on TV and then use DNA evidence. Nah, man, like that almost never, ever, ever happens.
Yeah.
And so this idea that crime will increase if we defund police, that we know that's not true. And then here's the other thing, right? Like, we're only talking data, not my opinion. Like most crime occurs in white neighborhoods. We don't talk about that. We always say, well, they're policing black neighborhoods because there's more crime. Now, most crime occurs in white neighborhoods. First of all, because
they got more people.
Right, and 87% of white people live around 7% of their neighborhoods have only like 7% of black people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's so many of them that, of course, it makes sense that most crime occurs in white neighborhoods. But here's the other thing, right? Even the stuff that they attribute to our neighborhoods, it's not really crimes that police just caught somebody breaking into a house. Most of the time, it's like, oh, they stopped someone because they were black, and then the person had weed in his pocket, so that counts as a crime in a black neighborhood.
Yeah.
Or they'll stop a car, and people will have a gun in the car, and that counts as crime in a black neighborhood. When those things, we know white people are 2.5 times less likely to get stopped by cops than a black person. And here's the interesting thing about that.
No, it froze. Come back. Oh, there you go.
More contraband.
Say that part again because it froze.
Yeah, white people have. Yeah, the statistics show that white people have more contraband when they are stopped by police. They're less likely to be stopped, but they are more likely to have contraband. So part of the reason our neighborhoods are considered high crime areas and the reason black people are criminalized is because they just fuck with us more, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or just mess with us more. I'm sorry.
No, you can say it. It's fine. We cuss on these lives. But it makes the point. I think, Michael, what I really wanted you to do was not just illuminate the things that the few things that Tim Scott does that are favorable for black people in the Senate, but also just to help people understand that there's a spectrum. There are people who are abolitionists and believe that there should be, no jails and no police force. Let's talk about it. But there's also a movement to defund because police departments are overfunded. They are overfunded, and our schools are underfunded, and mental health workers are underfunded, and social workers are underfunded, and the homeless crisis is major in a lot of, major American cities. And there's nothing being done to solve that in a meaningful way. And my interns right now are pulling how much money is spent on policing right now, by the city budget. You know that this is mostly a state and local issue.
So the easy way to look at it is that police are basically local versions of the military, right? Like how we overfund the military. We spend most of our money on the military. Well, if you look at your city budget, whatever city you're in, I would guarantee that about 40% of your budget, I mean, that includes schools, that includes housing, healthcare, all of that, most goes to the police force, right? But again, police don't do all of the things that we think they do. We know policing doesn't stop like drug trafficking and drug use, right? So we know what does. Substance abuse and treatment centers. So why not take some of that money from police, defund them, and use it in substance abuse centers? You talk about violent crime, right? Well, we know that crime is a socioeconomic phenomenon. The poorer people are, the more likely they're to commit a crime. So the answer to me is
Mhm.
that we fix the economic problems, right? Like,
Yes.
no, people always talk about like why is there so much crime in black communities and never mention why there's so much poverty in black communities, right?
Yeah.
It's a complex myriad of reasons, right? It's about how schools are funded from property taxes, and the property taxes in black neighborhoods are low, not because of crime or anything, but because white people don't want to live around black people, right?
Yeah.
There are studies that show that white people's perception of a neighborhood and how bad the crime is, and it isn't tied to anything real except the amount of black people in it, right?
Yeah.
So we could take that money that we use for like busting into houses of drug dealers and put it in substance abuse centers, right? We could take that money that we use for locking people up and put it towards mental health care, right? We
Mhm.
we can stop. Well, like police are charged with stuff like finding lost dogs and tracking down. Like a lot of that stuff is part of jobs that police shouldn't be doing anyway. They're not qualified. They take a
Yeah.
6 course and we expect them to solve every problem in our community.
And that's just it. They not social workers. So
Right.
now, Michael, we supposed to be having a debate. I wanted them to hear from the professor first, so
Right.
people could be educated on what we're talking about. We're gonna go into debate mode. So I'm going to, if you want to stick around and fact check us, you can, because
Okay.
you are great at that too. But I'm gonna let the people talk. You know, people got to get it off their chest. People want to be heard right now. So I'm gonna let them weigh in. I am on Michael's side because this is the educated side. Michael said we gotta defund, y'all. So let's debate it up. Michael, you are a gem as always. You know I love you dearly, my brother. I thank you. And y'all, we got Michael out of jail. They arrested Michael the other day because he was too smart for these Alabama streets, y'all. They tried to put him in jail. But Michael, we glad you out.
Thank you.
We glad you out. They didn't keep you. How long did they keep you in there?
I was only like maybe 4 hours.
That's too long. We can't have that. We can't have that. Love you. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Okay, you guys, you heard it from my good brother, Michael Harriet, who came through with the data and all of that on policing. Now it is time to debate. The debate is, should we be defunding the police or not? I wanted to set the stage because there's a lot of people, including me, who have misinformation on defunding the police. Just last week, I had misinformation. Shout out to my sister, Alicia Garza, who fact-checked me like she always does. She does it nicer than me, though, y'all. But I deeply appreciate that. In fact, even on my own page yesterday, we put up some information that wasn't right. I was tired. I didn't fact-check the first bullet. That's all up and fixed now. We have the facts on my page. There's a post on my page where we talked about defunding the police. I hope that you will review that. Now you can step in here and you say that you're ready to talk about defunding the police. Your position is you are opposed to that. You think that we need to just be looking at body cams, dash cams, databases for police officers. You are not on the spectrum to reimagine communities that can be safer, a public safety system that can be served by all of the people, all of the community. You think it's 5-0 or nothing. That's your posture. If that's your posture, hit me up in here and I'm going to fight you on it. I got the facts from an economist. What you got? Let's see. All right, so let's go in here. You have to be opposed to defunding. If you're not, don't take it personal, but I am going to hang up on you. What you got? Hello. Here we are. Coming on. Okay, there we go. Hello. Hello. Oh, it's not, you're not here.
It's just dark in my room.
Girl. Okay, we'll turn the lights on and call us back, okay?
Hold on, I'm gonna turn it on. I wanted to say something
Girl,
about
no,
it.
I'm not doing this in the dark. I love y'all. We not doing that. No, I can't do that. I'm not talking to y'all in the dark. I'm not doing that. I love y'all. Your position is that you want to fund the police, that you think 5 are heroes. That's what we're going to do. So if you want to debate, I need you to send in a request. Let's go. And then when sis turns the light on, we'll holler back. But we're not having no debates in the dark. All of the things in the light. All the things coming to the light. Coming to the light. Coming to the light. Why won't it let me go? There we go. Okay. Let's see. This is your position is that you support keeping the money with the police departments. Oh, she declined. Let's not ask. Let's see. Let's try this again. Okay, let's see here. Your position is that we need to keep the popos at the funding level where they're at. You guys ready? Hello. Hi.
Hi,
What's your name? Where are you from?
my name is Cameron and I'm from Chicago.
Hi, Cameron from Chicago.
Hi.
Okay, so your position is we're keeping the money with the police.
No, I say defund it.
Okay, honey, I'm going to call you back. I got to get somebody that has another position, okay?
Okay, that's fine.
It's nice to meet you, Cameron.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Okay, you guys, remember the rules. It's a debate. So if you're on the side of defunding the police, hi, that's my side. I'm going to argue our case. If you're on the side that says we need to keep funding levels where they are, that money needs to go to police departments. I need the popos to keep me safe. They protect and serve me. That's your position. If that is your position, then you're going to raise your hand. I'm going to call on you. You're going to send in a request. Yes, yes, yes. We're going to do it. We're going to do it. Let's try. Here we go. Let's see. Let's see here. Okay. Nope, they declined. Let's try again. Okay, this person is waving at me. Let's see if that means they want to debate. Let's just try to do it this way. Somebody said they're not here, sis. I'm sorry. You're probably right. We're going to just try one more time. Hi.
Hey, Angela, how you doing?
I'm good. Tell me your name and where you're from.
My name is Lindsay, and I'm from North Carolina.
I had a feeling because it said DJ Tar Heel. I had a feeling that might be the case. So,
Hey,
okay,
got to rep the squad. Got to rep the squad.
Yes, so you are on the side of we need to keep police funding where it is. You don't support defunding, correct?
I do support that the funding should stay with the police to a certain extent because we need, as police officers, we need equipment. We need equipment to work correctly. It works correctly. I'm a security officer, but Okay. And I think the money should go toward at least not only money should go towards bettering the community and bettering the place that we work in. And also the money should go towards helping other situations, other areas of the police department, more training, better for us to be trained in situations where things like George Floyd or Breonna Taylor doesn't happen again.
Can I give you a fact?
Sure.
So what if I told you that the Minneapolis Police Department required officers to go to a mandatory 24-hour training? Like it wasn't 24 straight hours, but they had to do 24 hours of training. So what if I told you that training wouldn't have stopped George Floyd?
That would be a hurtful situation to me because I always feel like there should be some sort of training. There should be some sort of teaching. There should be some sort of instruction. And it shouldn't go on. It should be ongoing instruction or training because, things change on a daily basis. We should be able to be trained and have the funds to be able to train and have the proper equipment and the equipment working to properly take care of the public.
What if I told you that the equipment, so by equipment, are you talking about body cams or dash cams?
Body cams, dash cams, equipment for vehicles.
What if I told you that with body cams and dash cams, officers choose to turn them off or to leave them off?
And those right there, I feel like that's totally wrong. The body cam should be on. It should be set up that once you put that vest on, the cam should be able to come on. It shouldn't be no way an officer should be able to shut it off. It should come on. When you put it on and turn off at the end of the shift.
What happens if I told you that the officer could just take the vest off? Let's say they spend millions of dollars getting the type of vest where as soon as it's touched by a human, the body cam automatically comes on, so they leave the vest off. Then what?
It should be mandatory that all officers. I know in Durham County in North Carolina where I live, officers are it's supposed to be mandatory that officers wear vests.
Do you know that there are so many things that should be and that things that are supposed to be, but people always find a way around when they are abusers and they're part of a system that is used to abusing and oppressing people? Like, we are led to believe that, or they are led to believe that Black people are inherently violent and criminal. That is what racial profiling is all about. Like George Floyd, it's not even about a body camera. George Floyd should not have been face down on the ground because of a $20 bill.
I completely agree.
So
I mean, in every situation, I've been a security. I was a security officer currently. I worked in the prisons for 2 years in North Carolina, and I've came to the point where we've learned how to subdue a person without having to go to that realm. Once you put handcuffs on a person, it should be a done deal. That's why I also feel like the funding should stay with the police. It should be a certain situation where we should be able to weed out those that aren't for protecting and serving, that aren't for the community. And I think sometimes funding can better that situation. I feel like sometimes.
So you think more funding to police departments would mean that the people who go from police department to police department who have had a pattern and practice of abusing the law, of abusing people, of shooting to kill people, of using excessive force, you think that more money would get rid of that?
I think it would be a help not only with that, but also electing officials that are on our side. That would help with the distribution of funds toward the police department to better the police department. So it'll be a better community relationship between the police and the community. I think also at certain points, like I said, not all the funding should go toward the police. I think a certain amount of funding should go back to the community, should go back to help with certain programs that the police can coincide with.
So let me ask you this. So are you saying that right now police departments should get more money, or do you think that some of the money that exists in police departments right now should be transferred to the community to ensure that the community can do some of the things that police departments are currently doing?
I feel like it should go both ways.
Increase money and decrease money.
I feel like the money that's supposed to go toward, it should be a situation where the governments, the state governments, the local governments should be able to have a certain amount of money that go toward the police, but also also have a certain amount of money to go towards areas that are in need.
Okay, so let me ask you this.
I feel like it should
right
be,
now,
mm-hmm.
If there's no extra money in the city budget, let's just say there's no extra money in the city budget, should the police department keep the same level of funding that they're at, or should some of the money that's in that police department be taken from that department and given to the community resources that you talked about?
I feel like it should go toward the community resources.
So we agree on defunding, my brother. I will talk to you later. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. You take care. Nice talking to you.
All right, you too. Bye-bye. Okay, so here's the situation. Remember when I talked about a spectrum? There are some people that believe in complete abolition, that there's no place for prisons in our society, in a civilized society, that there's no place for police officers. That does not mean that there's no place for keeping communities safe, and it doesn't mean that there's no way to solve crime. What it does mean is that the systems that we have right now aren't working, and they aren't serving all of us. And so part of what we really have to talk about is, we understand that, like, we wake up tomorrow, police departments aren't going to be gone. But can we at least agree that as they are right now, it's not serving us? It's not serving people of color. It's not serving poor people. Can we at least agree with that? Can we at least agree that law enforcement, that police officers are not trained to be social workers, are not trained to handle homeless crises, are not trained to be people that go into a parent's home and tell a kid to go to school? My cousin was telling me that just the other day. We should be asking the police officers around us, what 2 or 3 things are you responsible for in your job that you wish you weren't? Because it goes outside of the mission. That's really the point here. And I think that once we can start having those conversations for real, we can really talk about defunding. That word should not scare people, y'all. folks in government look to defund things all the time that help real people like me and you. They look to figure out ways to cut Social Security, even though they know our elders need that to eat and to pay their bills. They look to find ways to cut school costs, right? We know these kids, especially in our neighborhoods, are undereducated or under-resourced. Why are we talking about cutting education? So when it comes time to talk, or environmental justice, we want to cut funding that would help ensure that people in Flint have clean water and those damn dirty ass lead pipes are gone, right? These are the kinds of things all the time that we have to talk about. But as soon as we start talking about police and they might have too much, it's not okay. Do y'all see these police officers on the street against these protesters looking like RoboCop, looking like the Terminator, looking like they're going in to fight a whole damn war, and they're up against somebody with a cardboard sign that says Black Lives Matter, and they're up against someone with a bullhorn? That's not even a fair battle. And by the way, do we even need to talk about the fact that they're on the street protesting police brutality only to be brutalized like that old white man who was pushed on the back pushed on his back and cracked his head open? But we can't talk about defunding. But we can't talk about divestment. But we can't talk about investment in communities of color. Fight me. Fight me. Let's go. Let's see what else y'all got. By the way, shout out to people who are courageous enough to change their positions. I just had to change my position last week because I didn't know. I thought they were just talking about, let's get rid of the police, like right now. And you know what? Truthfully, y'all, it might not be a bad idea. We need a different form of law enforcement. It might not be a bad idea. Eventually, let's talk. Hello.
Hello.
What's your name? Where are you from?
My name is Gabriella. I'm from Austin, Texas.
Austin, Texas. Okay, so you are on the side of keeping all the funding with the police. You do not believe in defunding.
Correct.
Okay, tell me your position.
I am a school teacher, and
Yeah.
my children, I'm a pre-K teacher, and one of the units of the year are community helpers, and we teach them that the police are there to protect them, 100%. So I can't say take away money from a group of people that are there for them. It's not going to happen.
Do you have any Black kids in your class?
Several.
So when you talk to them, do you make it clear to them that there are also situations where police officers could harm them?
Never.
Do you know that that's the case?
If there is a situation like that, it's because of the choices they've made.
So Breonna Taylor, have you heard of Breonna Taylor?
I've heard her name.
Okay, do you know what happened with her?
She was killed by the police.
How?
Shot.
How? Do you know where she was?
I believe in her home.
Asleep. Do you know who Breonna Taylor was to the kids in your classroom?
I mean, honestly, my kids probably don't know her name.
I'm sure they don't, but there are so many Breonna Taylor, sis. Breonna Taylor was an EMT. She's an essential worker who was working to save lives in Louisville, Kentucky every single day. And that woman was asleep in her home. They exercised a no-knock warrant. They had the wrong home, and they shot and killed Breonna Taylor. If we look at Botham Jean, who is also from Texas.
Wait, who is this? Okay, going back to Breonna Taylor, how did they get the warrant?
They exercised the warrant on the wrong home.
So who was in charge of the warrant then? That's the question.
Well, they asked for the warrant with the judge, but I think nonetheless they shouldn't be busting into people's homes shooting first, right?
Okay.
Because no matter what, even if let's just say that it was the right house, and it still wasn't Breonna Taylor, you don't shoot first, right? And so I think the problem is whenever we start to put the responsibility of racism and white supremacy at the feet of the person who is the victim or the group of people who are the victim, we have a real problem. The reality is that police by mission, the reality is that police by mission are supposed to protect and serve.
That's what they were doing. Oh, you froze. What happened? Oh my gosh.
No, my phone rang. I'm sorry about that. But they are by mission supposed to protect and serve, but that's not always what happens. And in far too many instances with Black people, that does not happen. Go ahead.
That's what they were doing. They were serving and protecting. They had a warrant. They did not bust into, if in the case that it was correct, right?
It was incorrect.
We not have died. I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
It was a mistake, right?
That cost.
However, absolutely it did. But let's address the mistake. How do we better the police force so that they are serving and they are protecting all people?
So that's a great question. What that would require of us is for us to really get to the heart of what is institutional racism and white supremacy. That is why there can be Black officers, right, who function in the same way in a police department and still operate with the same modus operandi, meaning that someone can be an agent of white supremacy and systemic oppression and be Black or be Latino or be Native American.
What does that mean?
That means that you can be in a system, and because the system is designed a certain way, you could be implementing the system even though you're not racist yourself. You are an agent of systemic oppression. You are an agent of systematic racism. And I think that the point that exists here is that far too often, and we can go case after case, many of these cases not even viral because there wasn't video footage, but in case after case, police shoot to kill. In Philando Castile's case, this is a Black man who was a school worker who probably looks like some of the people who you work with at school if we weren't all in quarantine. But Philando Castile was a school lunch worker, talked to kids every day, motivated kids every day, told police officers who approached his vehicle because of speeding that he had to get his license. He wanted them to be aware that he had a gun in the car that he was licensed to carry. He said, "I'm going to reach for my license," and they shot and killed him as soon as he reached for it. And what I'm telling you is some of the things that you just kind of want to train out of them are systemic, are implicit, and sometimes they turn into explicit biases. Those are things that are so dangerous.
Can you explain that word?
No, honey, I can't. But what I can't. I just don't have time. What I'm telling you is people are racist. What I'm saying is people are racist and they have challenges that they can't overcome. And if they have those kinds of challenges, they probably shouldn't be in positions where they have to protect and serve. And if that is what they're being called to do, the mission has to shift. I'm not saying that all police officers are bad. Like, I'm not going through that whole thing. I am saying that the system as designed is inherently flawed, though, right? And so I think that as a teacher, what I would implore you to do, what I hope you will do, is look at all of the cases that exist. Michael talked about some data that exists right now on the Washington Post. We use mapping police database that is amazing and breaks, killings down by race. I think it's super important that these kids are talked to. The second call. I'm back. Can you hear me? I'm sorry. That was the second call. So what I was saying is I really hope that you will use your classroom to tell kids the whole truth, right? There are officers, like there's an officer where I grew up in Seattle who is incredible. And she was the exception and not the rule. I have police officers in my family. They're incredible people, right? But they all understand that the system is flawed and needs to be changed, right?
So how do we change that?
Well, I think that part of what we're talking about today is a divestment effort, which would ensure that some of the things right now that police are responsible for doing, mainly associated around mission, that they stay on mission. That the people who are social workers and the people who can address mental health crises, the people that can address homelessness, school workers that can address truancy, those are the folks that deal with that. There should not be police officers arresting little kids in schools.
Where is
Because
that?
they're, oh my God, a lot. We should send you some clips, sis. A lot, like in handcuffs, little black kids, 5 and 6 years old, because they were throwing tantrums. Exactly. Because they were throwing tantrums in class. Exactly.
No.
Your face, exactly. Yes, sis. Yes.
5,
Yes.
6.
Yes.
What?
Okay. Look it up. Read the comments. They'll tell you. But I don't want to lie to you. I think it's important for you to understand, like, I'm not here to bash police officers, to bash law enforcement, to demonize them. There are some things that happen on these streets, as we say, that are real. And some of them happen in classrooms that probably look a lot like yours.
Can you send me some links?
Yes, can y'all send her some links? Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Okay, take care. Child, I'm worried about that classroom. Y'all send sis some links, please, about, you remember the little girl who got handcuffed and was having a fit? I think it was in Orlando. Wasn't that just earlier this year? Can you guys please send that to her? And I think that there was another one of a little boy who wasn't much older. And then there was also the school officer who threw the kid down, like, in the administration office, right? So anyway, y'all, I'm tired. That's it. So thank you so much. It was Ayanna Jones. Thank you so much. 7 years old. So she could have been in that woman's classroom. Thank you guys for today. As you can see, we have a lot of educating to do. Everybody who has an interaction with law enforcement, it doesn't feel like protecting and serving, right? And so we have to be patient with our brothers and sisters, with our siblings out here in the world while we educate. That's heavy. So yeah, let's keep working. Let's keep educating. Let's keep listening. I did listen a lot over the last few days just so that I could really get up to speed and be a good advocate for my people. I want y'all to know that I've heard you loud and clear. I understand the significance of a defund movement. I'm saying divesting because I think people can understand that better. So I just want y'all to know that I'm here and I get it. And I appreciate your courage. It's giving me courage. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. And so I just want to shout out Alicia Garza and Rashad Robinson and Patrice Cullors and my sister Brittany, who also evolved so much on this issue over the last few days. I just am so grateful to you all for your courage, for your strength, for the movement building, for the movement for Black Lives people who've reached out. For just like, I just thank y'all. So I'm about to go get some water real quick. I need to check with Leonard to see if we're doing sibling rivalry today. But I love y'all. Keep asking questions because we want to be able to answer these things. Dream Create Inspires in here. Wait, you guys, let me see if she'll go live with me real quick. I love her. Hold on. She declined me. Well, anyway, we'll try another time. But anyway, love you guys. Hopefully I'll see you in just a little bit, in about 10 minutes for sibling rivalry. I think I'm going to check with Leonard. One way or the other, I'll give y'all an update. Much love. Thank you. This was Say Word. It was the word Say Word.